Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we are back here with episode 5 of Against the Odds. So, I gotta explain a little bit about how the voting works on MTG Goldfish for Against the Odds. We use Straw Poll Me currently for the voting, and Straw Poll Me has this weird feature where you cannot end the polls. So the poll just stays open for infinity. On the other hand, we post the videos for Against the Odds on Wednesday nights, typically, and then I start recording for the next week, usually on Fridays. So whoever is ahead on Fridays in the voting gets made into the videos, because once I record and start editing the matches, really can't go back and start from scratch. So this week we had some weirdness happen with the voting, where Combo Druids was clearly ahead on Friday morning, and then there was a late rush of votes for Tainted Remedy after the Druids videos, the Gilt-Leaf Archdruid videos, were already recorded. So, we are Combo Druids this week. In the future, what we're going to do is, on Friday mornings, probably around 11 a.m. Eastern Time, we are going to literally take the voting off of the page for the Against the Odds article, and we will put a picture of the completed voting up there and announce that the poll is closed, just to avoid this situation again, where if you look on the Against the Odds page, it'll look like Tainted Remedy was the winner, but in the time frame we use for recording the videos, actually, Combo Druids was ahead. So this week, Combo Druids is our videos. Unfortunately, because I really wanted to play Stasis, Stasis and Ugin's Nexus come in 4th and 5th. They're out of here. So we will have Darksteel Reactor, Tainted Remedy, and 3 new options on the ballot for this next week. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about the Combo Druids deck. So the winning card, the option that was voted for, Gilt-Leaf Archdruid. So 5 mana 3/3. Whenever you play a Druid spell, you draw a card, tap 7 untapped Druids you control, gain control of all lands target player controls. So I looked up Druids, tried to figure out what we could do with Druids, and other than Gilt-Leaf Archdruid, which I guess in its own way is sort of a Druid Lord, it's basically a Glimpse of Nature stapled to the Steel Lands effect on a body. The other Druids are almost exclusively mana-producing creatures. Like, every single one of them, in one way or another, produces mana. So we had to figure out a way to take advantage of all this mana production from Druids that still abuses Gilt-Leaf Archdruid and will hopefully allow us to steal all of our opponent's lands. So, since the only option is mana Druids, which are also mostly elves, we have a ton of them. We have 4 Arbor Elves. 1 green, 1/1, tap to untap target forest. We have 4 Elvish Mystics, 1 green, 1/1, tap to add 1 green. 4 Llanowar Elves, 1 green, 1/1, tap to add a green. 4 Noble Hierarchs, 1 green, 0/1 with Exalted that taps to add green, white, or blue. So we have astounding 16 1-drops, all of which produce mana, all of which are Druids. Then we have 8 3-drops. We have 4 Elvish Archdruids, taps to add 1 green equal to the number of elves you control. We have 4 Somberwald Sage, a 0/1 for 2 and a green, taps to add 3 mana of any one color, but it can only be spent on creature spells. We have 2 4-drops, 1 Karametra's Acolyte, taps to add mana equal to our devotion to green, 1 Temur Sabertooth, which is our sort of one of our combo pieces, 4 Gilt-Leaf Archdruids, as we mentioned, and a single copy of Regal Force, which Regal Force is a 5/5 for 7. When it comes into play, you draw a card for each green creature you control. So the way this plays out, the idea is we need to get at least 7 Druids on the board to steal our opponent's lands. So we do this by producing a ton of mana and drawing a ton of cards, and eventually we have 7 Druids, steal our opponent's lands, and then win the game. So how does this work? Well, we have basically 2 different combo pieces. Gilt-Leaf Archdruid is a combo piece in and of itself because of the Glimpse of Nature ability. So whenever we cast a creature, other than Temur Sabertooth or Regal Force, which have different purposes, we draw a card. So we want to get one of these on the board. We can use Chords of Calling to find our Gilt-Leaf Archdruid, or one of our other combo pieces if we need to, like the Temur Sabertooth sometimes, Regal Force even if we have enough mana, or in the early game, just another 1 mana elf. So Chords holds it together, but the two big pieces are Beck Call. So Beck Call is a we don't we don't cast the call part. We don't have any white mana in our deck. So we are playing this for the Beck aspect, which is whenever a creature enters the battlefield this turn, you may draw a card. This is an updated version of Glimpse of Nature, which was only a single green mana, but this is a blue and a green, so definitely worse than Glimpse of Nature, but it works for our purposes. So we play a few mana elves, get some mana going, play a Beck Call, and then every time we catch a creature, we get to draw a card, which helps us cycle through our entire deck in conjunction with Intruder Alarm. So you may have seen a combo like this before. Intruder Alarm is 2 and a blue. It's an enchantment. Says creatures do not untap during their controller's untap phase. Whenever any creature comes into play, untap all creatures. So all of our creatures are producing mana, basically. So with Intruder Alarm, our idea is to get a couple of mana producing elves on the battlefield. And in Intruder Alarm, then whenever we cast a creature, any creature, we get to untap our mana dorks. So we are producing a ton of mana. We are breaking even whenever we cast another 1 mana card, but we are netting mana when we have a Somberwald Sage or an Elvis Archdruid on the battlefield. Somberwald Sage is actually a really key piece to this deck so let's say cast a Beck Call. We have an Intruder Alarm, a Somberwald Sage, and maybe one other elf on the battlefield. But every time we cast any creature, we get to draw a card because of Beck Call. Also, if we have a Gilt-Leaf Archdruid, we get to draw a card, so we could be drawing 2 cards or 3 cards, depending on the number of Archdruids we have. When that creature enters the battlefield, we get to untap our Somberwald Sage, which gives us mana to cast the cards that we just drew, so we can cast another creature, draw a couple more cards, untap our Somberwald Sage, tap it for 3 mana after it untaps with Intruder Alarm, and we just go through this endless cycle. With a Somberwald Sage and another creature or 2 on the battlefield, we can usually draw through our entire deck and have a ton of mana floating. And eventually, because Intruder Alarm untaps, we will have a Gilt-Leaf Archdruid on the battlefield, which means we can, on one of the untap triggers from Intruder Alarm, we can tap everything to steal all of our opponent's lands. So in theory, the next turn, we can pass the turn, the next turn we can beat down with this huge board of mana producers and win the game on the following turn. And our opponent shouldn't be able to disrupt us because we don't have any lands. So that is the idea of the deck. Regal Force is just there to add additional card draw. Sometimes we get so much mana going that we have more mana than we know what to do with. Regal Force, we can draw it or chord into it. It draws us so many cards that we don't have to worry so much about fizzling out. Temur Sabertooth is sort of the same way. If we have a board that's built up big enough, we can have a Temur Sabertooth, tap a couple of creatures to activate Temur Sabertooth's ability, replay the creature that we bounce, trigger Beck Call, trigger Gilt-Leaf Archdruid, untap everything with Intruder Alarm, and we can actually just go infinite with Temur Sabertooth bouncing and replaying until we draw our entire deck or get enough creatures that we can steal all of our opponent's lands. So that is the basic idea of the deck. We're looking to resolve Gilt-Leaf Archdruid and Beck Call to draw cards. After we play a bunch of random mana dorks, then we use Chord of Calling to hold it all together, and then Intruder Alarm is the combo. Untaps all our mana dorks, allows us to create basically not infinite mana, but more mana than we could ever spend by tapping and untapping our creatures. And it's important to note with Intruder Alarm, if you've ever played against the Bloom Titan deck when they have 2 Amulets of Vigor, where they get to untap their lands twice, 2 Intruder Alarms works the same way. So if you have 2 Intruder Alarms, when a creature resolves, you get to untap all of your creatures. You can tap them again for mana in response to the Intruder Alarm trigger, then untap them again to the second Intruder Alarm trigger, tap them all over again. So you basically double up on the mana for each Intruder Alarm that's on the battlefield. Rest of the deck, we have only 18 lands because we have so much mana production. We might even be able to play less lands than this, honestly. 4 Breeding Pools, 4 Windswept Heaths, 4 Wooded Foothills, 4 Forests, 2 Cavern of Souls. I know some people probably say, why don't you have Misty Rainforest? The answer is, in this deck, it really doesn't matter. Like, every single fetchable land is a forest because it's all breeding pools and it is for forests. So Windswept Heath, Wooded Foothills, if we had a card that was a fetch target forest and didn't have a second option, that would play just as well in this deck. Literally, the second color on the fetch does not matter one bit. We are purely searching out forests because that's all that's in our deck. The 2 caverns just help us resolve stuff through counter spells. Sideboard wise, 4 copies of Dispel, 3 Nature's Claims, 2 Swan Songs, sort of like additional Dispels, just a way to protect the combo. 4 Echoing Truce, this is a way that we can get through problematic permanents our opponent has, and also in a pinch can bounce our own creatures in response to removal. And then 2 Asceticisms. The idea is it can protect our entire team. It's just so slow. Like 5 mana is a lot. If we are playing a 5 mana enchantment, we are probably going to lose the game anyway, just because we're so far behind. But in very specific matchups, it could be fine, like a control matchup or something like that. So anyway, that's the deck. Anyway, make sure to check out mtggoldfish.com, the host of all of the videos and all of my articles, as well as ton of other great content from other people, deck lists, prices, everything you could really want. As far as Magic the Gathering is concerned. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can keep up on not only Against the Odds, but Budget Magic and other video series that we put up from time to time. So anyway, I hope you enjoy the videos, and I will talk to you guys soon.